This is Scott with Hi-Lux Optics, back at the range to get a view through the scope on the Malcolm 20 Power Target Scope. I'm starting out with the reticles and the target blurry so that we can get everything nice and sharp and you can see what that looks like. I'm recording the audio after the range session because it was a pretty busy day and there were a ton of people shooting. So first I'm going to get this eyepiece settled in, get the reticle nice and sharp. Now I'm going to adjust the parallax for the target. This target is at 50 yards, but we're going to take a look further down range all the way up onto the hillside at 1,000. I'll apologize in advance as well for any of the bumpiness or shakiness or anything of the sort. As I got to different distances, I had to adjust the bag position and, well, that caused everything to shake around. I should also mention that this is being recorded on a phone that's hooked up to the scope, and I'm only using about 20% of the phone's sensor, so your experience with the human eye should be considerably more full of detail. Well, let's get started. This scope is 27 inches long, has a 41mm objective lens, a 3/4 inch scope tube, and external adjustments. If you're familiar with our 8-power Lyman or vintage sniper competition scopes, this should seem pretty similar to you, but with much higher magnification and a little bigger profile. Let's break into it. Once again, these paper targets are 50 yards away. The square box that you see at the top of each circle are 1 inch across. Now, right now I'm adjusting everything and getting the cloth set up to keep the sunlight out, and playing with the parallax in the meanwhile. I'm going to roll the parallax back and forth between the distant landscape and the target up close. And the fun thing about this particular scope is you don't actually have to dismount from it to change the parallax. On the 8-power, you did have to remove the sunshade and adjust the element down at the end, but with this particular one, you just move 2 rings down at the objective end to push the element back and forth until everything's nice and sharp. Generally, you can keep your eye on the ball while you're getting everything sighted in. Most of the holes that you see there on the left are from a .22 caliber that we are getting sighted in on iron sights at a little bit of a distance, so I apologize for the somewhat embarrassing grouping there. For now, let's roll this out. I need to adjust the scope and the rifle here to get it set up for the distant targets. So, after a brief jump, I'm going to have you looking at targets a little farther away. I've got the scope pointed at a target 650 yards away right now, and I'm getting the parallax settled in on that target. Meanwhile, some other folks are taking shots at these targets downrange, so we'll see where their hits end up hitting. This particular target is 20 inches across, at least the one here in the center of the frame. There's a bit of mirage from the desert, but that's what you can expect when the day is 80 degrees so far, and it's only the morning. Off to the left and right, you'll see a 30-inch and a 10-inch target, and buried in the left quadrant between the 30 and the 20 is a 5-inch target. This 20-power scope certainly makes it a lot easier to see the targets down there, and I think sometime in the near future I'm going to want to try it against that 5-inch target just up and to the left. But today I'm just here to take a look through it and see how things are appearing. On this 30-inch target, you can see the results of us dialing in Chris's 6.5 Creedmoor load. After the first couple calls for elevation and wind, we got it centered pretty nicely there and put, I think, 5 shots right in the middle. On a freshly painted target, you can see where the impacts are hitting. But let's bring it back to about 514 yards, where this 41-inch target is showing its age. Dang, that is a lot of holes. I think this is an appropriate moment to say holy cow. Still, it's pretty crisp and clear even through the desert mirage. At the very least, certainly makes this target pretty darn hittable. I think it's time to look at some other distances though, and unfortunately the wind is blowing my sunlight cover off of the edge of the mount, so you'll see a little bit of light peeking through the left. This is a target at 400 yards, 20 inches across, and you can see plenty of impacts on that one, pretty much all towards the center. Whoever was practicing there seems to be having a pretty good day. The sandbag, though, is not cooperating with me in this moment, so I apologize again for the jostling. Moving back a little closer, 300 yards, even easier to see the targets. 200, 100. I still need to set the parallax for this, so let me pick a target that's a little easier for me to make out. The one right now towards the center is a 10-inch target at 100 yards. And before getting behind the scope, I hadn't quite realized that the center was a different color. Once I adjust the parallax for it, you should be able to make out pretty much everywhere this metal's been pitted through the years. There we go. A little bit more adjustment and everything's nice and sharp. When the target's only 100 yards away, there's certainly a lot less mirage to contend with. And it certainly looks like some of the heavier hits have been on this target too, judging from its moon crater surface. But while I've got this target here and the 50-yard target just in the corner of the frame, I'm going to adjust parallax between the two just to show you guys what it looks like when you have two different distances of targets in your field of view. Without taking my eye off the scope, I'm just leaning forward and, with my left hand in this case, adjusting the rings down at the objective end to get the target settled in. Now that the paper is sharp at 50, I'll just check and make sure everything's locked in before adjusting it back again for 100 yards. Unfortunately, the rifle's not quite cooperating with me, so gotta keep things moving a little bit to get it stable on the sandbag. And we're back at 100 yards with the 10-inch target. Wow, I wonder how long until that thing breaks. We keep hitting it this way, it's not going to last much longer. Now it's time to look out at 1,000 yards, and I'm going to point this a little ways up the hill so we get above some of this mirage close to the ground. I don't actually have a target out there, but I'm sure you can recognize creosote and some other sagebrush from the desert. I think at this distance you could pretty easily make out a deer or some other such animal with the 20 power scope, and if you're hitting a target, I'm pretty confident you'd be able to see it. Looking around up here for anything a little more recognizable, I can't quite pick a good target, so let me bring this on back to 650. Again, right now in the field of view as I adjust the parallax, on the left is a 30-inch, on the right is a 20-inch that someone just missed, and in between the two is a little white target that's 5 inches across. The 5-inch target is a little wider than the crosshairs are, so you should still be able to put the center of your crosshairs on the center of the target and be able to see it. Well, that's about all I have at the range right now. I hope this has given you all an idea of what it's like to look through the 20 power Malcolm target scope. And again, I do apologize for the quality of the phone and the shakiness of the sandbags. Your experience with your rifle and the human eye should be quite a lot crisper. Y'all take it easy out there and enjoy whatever it is you're shooting.